Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, is there any better time to churn up the old rumor mill than right before the NFL draft? If you want a good one, go over to social media so you can hear how the Saints are going to get a first rounder for a 4-time concussed wide receiver. Make sense to you? No? How about the team trading a few number ones away and their starting quarterback, all the while eating most of his $50 million contract and getting him to waive his no trade clause to go to the worst team in football? Remember Judge Judy's famous line, if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Well, it doesn't have to make sense for us to talk about it. And besides, we have Garland Gillen of Fox 8 to tell us if all or any of this makes sense, as we will also chat about the crazy NCAA men's basketball tournament and the LSU women playing tonight in the Sweet 16. And of course, Gabe will have something to chew on, and we'll see if he can win another fight in the man versus the machine. It's all coming up next. So what are we waiting for? Cue the music. Start the show.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Has your bracket made that sound yet? You know the one. You know that sound. I keep that sound in the folder just for this time of year. I'll leave it in there. I was hoping Arkansas could hold on to a 16-point lead so we'd have a few more bombs going off, but pigs don't have fingers. It's hard for them to hold on to anything. We can hold on to the fact that this is Dattitude, episode number 355, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, March the 28th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Derry, 34 and a half years on the New Orleans sports media scene, and I thank you for being a part of our ever-growing Dattitude family. Did you stay up late like me last night? Texas Tech, Arkansas, Duke, Arizona. What a weird couple of games. Duke, Arizona, at times, Duke had this huge lead over Arizona, and then Arkansas actually surpassed the lead that Duke had in Arizona at one point. I'm like going back and forth. So I actually had to turn on the dual screens while my phone was on the Cubs game, playing their quote unquote domestic opener against Arizona. It was a crazy night, but look, it is what it is. Like I said, pigs don't have fingers. They can't hold on to anything. And the Arkansas Razorbacks couldn't hold on to a lead, which I'm sure a lot of people are happy about because there's so many people that had Texas Tech. People like me who had the upset that already lost Kansas in the Elite Eight. So I was rooting against Texas Tech because nobody had Arkansas in the Elite Eight. Straight out, I don't care if I get flack for saying this. I don't care. Texas Tech was straight up lucky last night. Arkansas looked like they wet the bed. I mean, you could just see that dwindling down. You're like, if you're rooting for Arkansas, you're just like watching the clock. I couldn't stop watching. I wasn't watching the game. I was just watching the clock. Anyway, what a weird night last night. Gabe Henderson's Elite Eight isn't still intact. All right, I got 7 out of 8, so I'm still good. We'll see. Typical late game Coach Cal. You ain't lying, man. That's just unacceptable. Unacceptable. All right. You can be a part of the show. As you see, a lot of people have commented. We'll get to the comments in just a minute. Our regulars are here this morning on this Friday morning. You can be a part of the show whether you're a regular or it's your first time here. All you got to do is type in your comment on YouTube or Facebook. Just be nice. Can you just be nice? Because we're going to get into some stuff today that you probably won't necessarily want to be. Some of you won't want to be nice. Can we just be nice for a day? If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the very nice Dattitude YouTube page. I'm always nice. I love to tell my wife, she goes, can you just be nice? I said, I'm always nice, super nice. She goes, what planet do you live on? We're going to be nice here today. That's the word of the day. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. Garland Gillen is on the show this morning. Garland Gillen from his home uptown. And we had to record it. He had some things going on this morning. Some kind of parent-teacher conference thing going on. Other things with work. He's a very busy man these times. And I wanted to get him on. Tried to get him on last week, and it didn't work out that way. So Garland is back with us. It's been a little while since I didn't realize how long it had been since Garland been on the show. So he is on in a recorded segment that's a half an hour. That's coming up in a little bit. Gabe is on this morning. He's going to be talking about, he's got something going on. He wants to chime in on the NCAA tournament. Look, I will say this. Last night was fun. I enjoyed last night. I really did. Even though we had a couple blowouts, Duke made it more interesting than they should have made it. The boy wonder of AKA known as my son texted me before the game. Duke's going to blow them out. Going to win easily. They're going to win by 23. And I almost texted him at some point. I'm like, bad. I just let him have it. I'm like, 23 my ass. Last time I take his advice. Nobody's going to beat. This is why, even though I have Duke winning it all, if Duke wins it all, I'm probably going to win. I'm going to win one of my pools. Another pool that I'm in, I'm going to do pretty well because I've had a really good, since last Saturday, I've been pretty good. The first day I was terrible, and then last Friday I was better. But Saturday I was good, and Sunday was perfect. I was 8-0. So I couldn't be perfect yesterday because I only had 7 of the 8 alive, but that's why I was rooting for Arkansas. But man, I've enjoyed it. We talked about all the reasons why this tournament maybe isn't as good as the other ones. We're going to get into it later on with Gabe, but I will say I enjoyed it. Okay. And I've watched as much or more of this tournament than I probably watched since the Final Four was in New Orleans. What was that? 3 years ago. So there you go. How about LSU? Their incredible comeback last night, down 4-1 and 6-2. Not a great night for Cade Anderson, his first rough outing of the year for the LSU baseball. He gave up 5 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. However, Daniel Dixon hit a 3-run shot, made it 6-5 in the 5th. Monster Milam followed it up with a 2-run homer later in the inning. And LSU took a 7-6 lead, and they went on to win 8-6. And we're going to talk more about LSU baseball coming up in the near future, for sure. So Garland's coming up. We got comments. But before we get to all that, before we get to Garland, Gabe, and you, because we got a lot of comments today, we're going to spend a lot of time talking to you this morning and the rest of the show. Let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Email. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll be well informed on whether you should begin to make the decision on how you want to proceed, if you want to proceed. By the way, Nick says he can't play left guard. He told me that. He said if they trade Derek Carr, he's in to play quarterback. Okay, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. But text convo yesterday went something like that. Let's just say he doesn't want to play left guard. I don't blame him. Later in the show, we'll tell you more about what Nick and Evangeline can do for you, not about Nick playing quarterback. But in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, let's get to the actual show here. And comments, what we got this morning? Who's saying what? Charles Mangus, good morning. Who dat to the Dattitude family? Good game last night. Duke pulled away. I wouldn't say they pulled away. Love in Arizona Love's going to be a fantastic player. Flag came through again. I got to say, you couldn't say that was a sure thing until I'd say final minute and a half, maybe even a little less than that. I don't know. Christian, there's a 0.0 chance Saints trade Olave. You must eat a night crawler on the podcast. I ain't doing that. I will say 0.0, but I ain't eating anything. I don't eat. The only bugs I've ever eaten, when I was in Mexico, what was that? 25-ish years ago. I went to Oaxaca. If you don't know, look it up. Oaxaca. Fantastic trip, by the way. Went to a Mexican League baseball game. And at the Mexican League baseball game, there was serving chapulines. What is a chapulín, you might ask? Grasshopper. I ate grasshoppers. And you get they have all these, they walk around literally. It's like, can you imagine the popcorn guy walking around with a tray of popcorn? Well, it's the same kind of tray. They're walking around with grasshoppers. And I ate them. When in Rome or when in Oaxaca. You know? You want me to do another Derry's Dime? We'll do a Derry's Dime. Soon. Eric Fudge Grant. You ate that? What? No, that was before he typed that in before I talk about the Chapulines. Christian also says, trade with Patriots first plus Olave. It ain't happening. You said 0.0 chance. There is 0.0. Kyle Sherman, good morning. Rocky, good morning. Owen Attilio, welcome back. Good morning. I haven't seen you in a while. Rocky had Texas Tech last night. Everybody had Texas Tech last night. Nobody had Arkansas. That's why I was rooting for Arkansas. When you have a bracket and you don't have something, you root for the team that no one has. I was rooting for Arkansas. Kyle Sherman, another one. I had Texas Tech. Of course you did. Everybody did. Earl's Pick says, there's a 0.0% chance that I'm nice all show. You're probably right. You're probably right. He says he can't get into college basketball. If you watch look, I never really got into it this year. I've been slow to get into college basketball, but I got to say, this tournament has gotten me in it. Saint for life. Who dat, baby? What's going on this Friday morning? All right, let's get into these trade rooms. Again, Garland's coming up. I'll run it's a recorded segment. When I run this recorded segment, if you have a comment, you're more than welcome to type it in. I will be following the comments as we go along. Go ahead. Type them up. I'll put them up there while Garland's talking. Again, we had to record this morning because he's got some other things going on. I want to get him up. Olave rumors. Hold on. I got to find this again because I had to reboot right before the show and I had some stuff up that I wanted to talk about. And here it is. This is my favorite. Okay. There are some really stupid things out there. If you go on social media, and I don't suggest that you do because social media is really dumb. But my favorite tweet on whether Olave will be traded, Barstool Nola says, to everyone saying Olave, quote, no. That's it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Again, I'm going to go back to and again, we'll talk. We spent 30 minutes with Garland, about 20 of it's on the Saints. And we kind of go back and forth with all these trade rumors. And I've been saying, look, even my son, like I said, the boy genius said, look, once he hears something, if you hear something on them internets, man, it's got to be true. I mean, if I could probably say something that people would clip out and show, Jim Derry said it. I mean, I'm telling you, people believe it. If they see it on this thing called the internets, it's true. But there's all kinds of, we're going to talk about Trevor. Talk about Fletcher Mackel's trade that he would like to see. I'm going to have to find that in a minute, by the way. We got another one that says, trade Chris Olave to the Patriots for Joe Milton. Are you out of your box? Are you trade Chris Olave to the Patriots for Joe Milton? Are you insane? It's just, some of these things are just mind-boggling. All these sorts of rumors, more than usual, because A, people are bored, and B, because they can. I mean, look, in the grand scheme of things, social media is a good thing. Okay. I joke about it all the time. You get to know people that you wouldn't normally know. You get to follow on people that you haven't seen in forever. If some people don't want to do that, some people do. I enjoy it. That's why I like Facebook for the most part. You can get on X because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if there are people that you trust and follow, whatever, you can get information. You can get legit, real information on X and on Instagram, and what you can get real information on these things. But you have to have, the problem is you have to have common sense. It's not like when I was growing up and you watched CBS and ABC and NBC and whatever. And if you watched the news, for the most part, you knew it was probably true. I mean, not everything you see on the news is true. Probably back then more so than now. But I mean, if you saw something, if Walter Cronkite said something, take it to the bank. You know, your local reporters here, our people at the Times-Picayune. Let me tell you something. Growing up in this business, I learned a lot. Okay, I learned way more being on a newspaper desk than I ever learned in college. Okay, and I know how it goes to get your sources. Okay, and if our guys say something, I'm taking it to the bank. It's true. Because I know how they get it. And I know what they have to go through to get it, to make it so the editor says it's okay. I've been an editor myself. I know how they've got their sources. Sometimes they say, people get pissed when they say, sources say. I can't speak for, I mean, it's so easy to say sources say these days, but I can tell you, at least from people at the Times-Picayune, when we say sources say, there are multiple sources, or it's coming straight from the horse's mouth, and we just can't tell you that the horse said it. But when it comes to Chris Olave, I haven't heard one reputable person even talk about Chris Olave being traded, because it doesn't make sense. All these people talking about a potential first round. First of all, you would never. No one's going to trade you a first-round pick for Chris Olave. There's not a single team in the NFL that would trade a first-round pick for Chris Olave. Not one. I don't care how desperate any team is. The Patriots aren't going to trade a first-round pick for Chris Olave. They're just not. What would it take for you? And then, besides all that, think about what the Saints' needs are. Even if they go get out and get Ted McMillan, okay? He doesn't like being called Ted. Teteroa McMillan. He likes being called either T-Mac or Teteroa McMillan. Apparently, he doesn't like Ted. So I won't call him that. But even if the Saints were to go out and get a stud wide receiver in the draft, you don't trade a Chris Olave, because you're not going to get a first-round pick. You'd be lucky to get a second, and I mean extremely lucky. You'd have to find someone that was desperate to give you a second. More likely, someone like Chris Olave, you'd probably get like a third, because that's the way trades work. Just because you think, well, he was a first-round pick, doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So no matter how desperate someone is or whatever, you got to look at what's realistic. Why would the Saints ever trade Chris Olave for a Joe Milton? I mean, come on, man. Again, we got to do things. We got to talk about things that make sense. And look, Charles, you're talking about ESPN, the worst at spreading rumors. This isn't just ESPN. There's a lot of people out there. I saw Sports Illustrated wrote a story, a blog, I should say, not a story. Now, I clicked on it, and I'm like, I've never heard of this person in my life. And they were kind of aggregating it from somewhere else, but they put it on Sports Illustrated's website that maybe it's potential. Chris Olave. This trade would make sense. But basically what people are doing is they're saying, what about if the Saints did this? And then they're writing a headline as if it's a possibility that it's going to happen, which is very deceiving. Bothers the hell out of me. It really does. I mean, the way that the headlines are being written, it's almost as if like, They know that the Saints are contemplating this, and then you click on it and you read it, and all it is some jackweed making up a scenario. What if the Saints did this? Or what if Team X did this? That's not what the headline said. They made it sound like this is actually a possibility. Saint for Life says Olave's contract is up in 2026. Exactly. He's on a rookie contract. You don't want to see the Saints overpaying this guy $18 to $20 million per year. He has been average for what you gave up to get him. Well, let me tell you something, Saint for Life. 18 to 20 million a year. That's the going rate. We keep talking about all these salaries that y'all think are overpaying. That wouldn't be overpaying. You say it's been average. I don't necessarily think he's been. Let's see. Let's go look at Chris Olave. Now, he wasn't great last year, but nobody was because they had all these problems. I mean, I wouldn't call this average at all. I think if you think this is average, then I need you to find. I mean, he started 9 games in 2022. Okay, played in 15, started 9 of them. He had 1,042 yards. 2023. He started 11 games, played in 16. He had 1,123 yards. That's far from average. I don't care what anybody says. We're going to have this debate all day long. He's the number 1 receiver. If you put the top 32 receivers in the NFL, he's clearly in the top 32. And those numbers that I just shared with you are prove that. He got hurt last year. Come on. Just saying. Earl's Pick says, come on, folks. Honestly, think about it. First off, the Saints are already short of the receiver position. Just said that. Second, why would you trade a player when he has his lowest value ever? Exactly. You don't. It's like stocks. Buy low, sell high. Why would you sell at the lowest point of his career so far? I'm just saying. He's not an insane for life. He's not a number 2. He's a number 1. Now, if you go get a Tedaro McMillan, he's a 1B. But 1, if you're a number 1 receiver, well, I don't know how to make this any more clear. Think about it. How does it work? There are 32 teams in the NFL. My limited Shaw math skills tell me that if you're in the top 32, you're a number 1. And really what number 1 means is you're the best receiver on your team. And anyone who doesn't think that Olave is not the best receiver on the Saints team, feed pigeons on Sundays. He clearly is. He clearly is. Gary Thomas Bradford says, you don't trade weapons that are proven for unproven players, especially when it's one of your best players. Meaning, you don't trade Olave for a Joe Milton. Correct. Or even if they trade him, you got to make sure you have players in place to fill in the gaps and put up numbers. Of course. Of course. Robbo's making up his own rumors. I like these. Why not make your own rumors? Well, the New York Times announced that Drew Brees has been brought back and then traded to the New York Jets. Why not? We talk about everything else. All right, let's get to our guest this morning. Again, if you want to comment while Garland recording is on, we just recorded this about a little over an hour ago. Then I will show you comment as we go on. It is a clip that lasts for 31 minutes and 1 second. And again, we spent about 20 minutes talking Saints. We spent about 5 minutes talking on the NCAA men's tournament, about 5 minutes talking about LSU women's basketball, and then the last minute is on LSU baseball. And when we come back, we'll kind of tie all of Garland's thoughts into one little bow. Garland Gillen here on the Dattitude Podcast. Welcoming in this morning, Dattitude Podcast, Garland Gillen, Fox 8 Live. It's been a little while since we've talked. Garland's off the avenue, and he's at his house, and we're ready to talk a little bit about some local sports. What's going on this morning?
Hey, it's a kind of overcast day.
Yeah.
My Irish Channel parade got canceled for the second time. It is now officially over with. And you know what? Moving on. I have another friend in my life that marches in, and he was super mad yesterday at all the people involved. I'm like, you know what? I'm moving on. I got Tulane Book Fest this week, and I'm going to go to a bunch of speakers, including, NOLA.com's Jeff Duncan and a few others. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to move on.
I had some friends that were upset about it too, and one of my good friends, he said, "You know what? The hell with it. He's going march in the Gretna Irish Italian Parade on Sunday." So,
all right, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in your neck of the woods, by the way, this evening, doing Newman versus who the hell are they playing? Hannon at Avenger Field. So I'll be out near the Fly. So
Yeah, I jog by there all the time. Newman's definitely in other sports is a big talking topic. Nelson Stewart moving on, the head football coach for 19 years. Rainey Livingston, they announced yesterday, is leaving at the end of the school year. So a lot of movement uptown for the Newman Greenies.
It is not a fun time for our athletic director, Patrick Summerall.
No, he's got a lot of work.
Having to make all those changes. All right, let's start off with the New Orleans Saints. There are actually a few things I want to talk about with you this morning, but I'm going to talk about the Saints. And my lead topic this morning is I have seen, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, all these different social media experts. And actually, it found its way into Sports Illustrated social media yesterday, I believe. My son sent me this because I don't know if he's trying to will it into existence, but all this talk about potentially trading Chris Olave. Do you think there's any meat to these bones? I mean, why would the Saints A, try to trade Chris Olave? B, I'm not sure they could even get what they would hope to get, even if they did want to. And C, why would someone want a 4-time concussed wide receiver and what they'd have to pay to get him?
This sounds like on the same level as like trading Zion Williamson, an injury-prone guy. He has no market. Same thing with Chris Olave. He has no market. Jim, we're just dealing with all these different trade scenarios. I had to do a Garland on the Avenue yesterday about Saints trading up the number 1 to get Cam Ward. I mean, that is some crazy talk, and I'm sure you had to deal with that also. Yes. I mean, that would involve trading your first-round pick this year, your first-round pick next year, trading your second-round pick this year and next year, and what the Panthers and Bears did, they gave up DJ Moore, the Panthers. So that's what you'd have to probably give up as a Chris Olave to make all that happen. Chris Olave is damaged goods right now. His market is what? You're getting a nickel on the dollar right now for him. There's no market for him right now. I don't believe that one either. I don't see that. That's up there with Cam Ward trade. I don't believe it.
We're going to talk more about Olave in a second, but you bring it up, and our good friend Fletcher Mackel, who we've all known for quite a while, he has got some outlandish stuff on there, and I think he's actually coming on the show next week, so we may be able to talk about it in person. I hope he does because it would be fun. But he's got some scenario where he just threw out this trade, and people were talking about it on X, and it was Derek Carr, the number 1 pick this year, the number 1 pick next year, and a number 2, I believe, in 2027. And I think someone else, it may have even been Chris Olave, to go get Cam Ward. Are you out of your skull? I love Fletcher Mackel, but come on, man. We can't. Remember the last time Dick got traded in the entire draft for Ricky Williams? I think people have learned lessons. You can't just go mortgage your future for a guy that I think would have been like the 6th best quarterback in last year's draft.
So first of all, he is a De La Salle grad like me, so I can support him for a moment. But if you need engagement farming, like Fletcher Mackel is your guy. If you want to get engagement, that's him. I mean, I love Fletcher. I think he loves the X, just pulling up these trades. I don't have that kind of time in my hands to cook up these trade machines. Every Monday he does like a mock draft. He's always got these Pelicans
He's
crazy
fired
trades.
Up, man. He's fired up.
He's got a lot of time on his hands. I don't have that kind of time. I have a lot more responsibilities in my life. So bless him.
He's got a lot of energy too, though, Garland. I want to have Fletcher Mackel's energy.
He's also, I mean, I have Garland the Avenue. He's trying to I think he's doing some kind of bootleg copy of it also.
Really? Is he?
He started with one on the Bayou, giving his thoughts. Okay. So I did Fletcher on the Bayou hashtag in his comments. He's now doing it in the backyard of. I
think you could tell me Fletcher in the field or something.
He's doing them in the DSU parking lot now. So hey, imitation's the greatest form of flattery. They got another guy that's driving around his car, giving his thoughts. By the way, A, that's dangerous to be doing in a car.
Exactly.
And B, I get motion sickness very quickly, and if anybody's in the car talking, I have to turn the video after 5 seconds. Like I was getting sick. So we need to end like anybody giving commentaries while they're driving a car. That's dangerous and not smart. And everybody's in the business of getting clicks and engagement. So that's fine. But I think Fletcher's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs if he thinks they're going to trade all that Derek Carr for Cam Ward.
Look, I think and what the Saints may or may not do, I think you and I have talked about this. So we talked about this in the show. We've been talking about this for months about what the Saints may do. Look, now that they've tied themselves to Derek Carr, I think I was saying 90% the last time we talked. It's 100% now, obviously, because they've made the deal. They're not trading Derek Carr. I mean, there's a reason why they've gone through all this. They're not going to trade Derek Carr. And people out there still saying, maybe they're going to trade Derek Carr. Maybe they didn't do all this to trade Derek Carr. You're still going to have to eat at least $40 million. That's if you get someone else to eat $10 million. It's not going to happen. Quit dreaming about it. Derek Carr is the quarterback of this team next year. And there's a really good chance in 2026 as well.
Yeah, no, Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore are not in the business of subterfuge. I don't think they're hoodwinking us by saying all these great things about Derek Carr, and then all of a sudden they're going to trade him. I just don't see a path. I think they're going to roll with Derek Carr this year. And I in their heart of hearts, they think they got a shot to make the playoffs in the NFC South. You know, as long as – I've always said this, and I've said this on Overtime and Final Bet and when I do videos on the Avenue. As long as the people in that building believe they can make the playoffs, that's great, okay? Because you need to get all those guys on board. All of us on the outside have a lot of doubts. We did Final Bet yesterday where we talked about ESPN Bet did all the over-unders for the NFL, and they have the Saints at 5.5 wins. I didn't even think it was going to be that low, Jim. So all the noise outside the building is saying this team is going to fail. But as long as they think it's not, and they think Derek Carr's their quarterback, they think Chris Olave is going to be their guy, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill. On defense, they're bringing Tyrann Mathieu back, Cam Jordan. Everything is pushing toward they're going to make another run at the playoffs, and they're not even close to blowing this thing up.
I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts, but if we talk about this the next time on Final Bet, I will tell you that may end up being my bet of the year over 5.5 wins.
Sean Fazan,
that's going to be like free money.
Sean, So I think ESPN Bet is having trouble like with the betting market. Like they have such a small percentage. So I explained last night on Final Bet that I think they came out with these over-under lines earlier than anyone else just to get engagement, get people in the mix. Like the big dogs like DraftKings and FanDuel and Caesars have not released their over-unders yet. I think you have to wait till the NFL draft to do that. But I give props to the ESPN Bet for doing it. It's got us all talking about it. I think it was smart to them to release them early. 5.5. There's no way that they're going under 5.5. Everything had to fall perfectly placed this past year for them to have 5 wins with all the injuries. New coaching staff. Now, I think when FanDuel and those guys come out, I think it'll be around 6.5, maybe 7. I'd probably say 6.5. That makes you start thinking if you put it at 6.5 or 7. That's where it's
major value.
Yeah, you're getting value right now at 5.5. The same thing with I got Juan Kincaid and Sean. I think the bet on this yesterday morning it was plus 2,700 that Ashton Genty was going to go to the Saints. Plus 2,700
value, great value.
So Juan got off the set. They tried to bet it. It moved to plus 2,100. It moved plus 600 from the morning to the afternoon. And get this, they put a cap of $50 on the bet.
That's because seriously, the big money guys, they find stuff like that and they will go put caps on a lot of these things. And
$50.
Final Bet's DVR'd on I got a DVR'd right now and haven't had a chance to watch
it was a spicy one.
Because the tournament was crazy last night, which we're going to get to in a minute. So I didn't get a chance to get and the Cubs are playing at 9:10. So I'm glad you're telling me this right now because as soon as we're done, I may go deposit money on ESPN Bet to put it. That's like a sure thing to me. Yeah,
the over 5.5 was one that I really liked. And the other one was, and I found this one on DraftKings, over under quarterbacks drafted in the first round was 2.5. Now it's minus 200 if you go over, but we all know this, Jim. Every team takes a reach on the quarterback. Yeah, somebody's gonna take a reach on Jackson Dart.
Dart's gonna go in the first round. Yeah,
that's another one. That's another bet where I saw on DraftKings that was over under was 2.5. So I love that bet. Sean said throw a little cash on the Ashton Genty bet, And then, I like the Saints over under 5.5. So we had some good ones last night on the show.
I like all those. So yeah, I mean, you got to find. Is there a way to watch show if you didn't DVR it like me? Can you go find it? Do you know?
Sometimes I put them up on fox8live.com. I haven't in a few. Sometimes the people will ask me to put it up there. So I can. There was some good tasty stuff. So I'll probably go back. I'm out for the next few days, but I might put that first segment on because there's been a lot of talk on social media about this over under 5.5. Some people said it. Yeah. Some people said it was deservedly so to have 5.5, and others were like, I'm pounding the over.
Well, the haters, look, it's been a long time. And look, I get it. I'm not bashing them at all. I get where they're coming from. But when's the last time you've seen this many Saints haters out there? And I know it has a lot to do with Derek Carr. There's some people that just hate Derek Carr so much that they're just Saints haters now. Have you ever seen the level of hateness this high?
Sean Fazan had a great comparison. He says he's never seen this much hate for a quarterback since Aaron Brooks, and that's pretty fair. That was 20 years ago. I think
it might be more than that. I think it might be more than Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, that was you're probably right. There's a lot of hate for him. There's a lot of hate for Mickey Loomis out there also. Which to Mickey's credit, he doesn't pay attention to it. He has no idea it's happening. So like Mickey's great with the blinders, so it doesn't faze him. I think the season ticket sales will be probably at their lowest point since like before Katrina when the fall hits. But I mean, if you're going to look for a little optimism, I guess you can just say new coach. And I want to see who they draft in the first round. If they get a Ted McMillan, the Arizona receiver, or they get a Tyler Warren out of tight end at Penn State, I'm just going to get excited, Jim. I think that's an exciting pick. If you're drafting an offensive lineman, dude, you like lost me a little. I know it's very important to protect your quarterback, but I need some kind of buzz. I need some Reggie Bush 06 kind of buzz here with this draft pick in the first round. And don't trade it. Don't trade up to number one.
Well, I will say this now that we talked about Wednesday's show was the title of Wednesday's show was basically because they went out and got Dylan Radins. Does that mean that they don't need an offensive lineman anymore? But my opinion on that is, look, I get it's not sexy, but do we really want to go through what we went through last year? No, don't get me wrong. This offensive line is already better than the offensive line is last year. There's no doubt in my mind there. But man, if Membu's there, he's shooting up the draft boards, but a guy like Membu or if Will Campbell, I mean, if one of those two guys, you're not going to be happy. You want the Ted McMillan, you want the Tyler Warren, you want the tight end or the receiver from Arizona. I mean, that's what you want. You don't want protection for Derek Carr.
No, I love that Tyler Warren can do everything. He can. He's a Taysom Hill kind of look like, and without the injuries, we don't know right now what Taysom Hill's his timetable is for his return to the team. We don't know that right now.
There is one.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know that right now. That's something that we're going to be kind of monitoring when OTAs start kicking up in May. That's something to watch. So, but I think Tyler Warren, I mean, he can do everything. He even threw some passes in the playoff last year. I like everything about him. And if you look at the betting odds, he's much higher to go in front of Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. If you look at the betting line, so Warren will go before. I'm intrigued to see how these quarterbacks are going to go, because then that means that the Saints have a better shot of getting a top name talent at that position. I want to see Mason Graham go high, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. I want to see those guys go high so the Saints can get a guy. But yeah, I want offense, man. I want some pop. Give me some sizzle. The Saints need to bring the sizzle back.
All right, I'm with you in a sense that I think they need offense, but I'm not. I think they need an offensive lineman. But although that being said, though, with all they've done, I'm not going to get upset if they do go get a Ted McMillan, because there is no question that he's the best receiver in this draft, and he's a game changer to me. He's a I don't want to say franchise changing talent, but he's definitely a guy that could come in and take a lot of pressure off of. We talk about Chris Olave, man. I mean, I think he instantly becomes number one. That would be an interesting competition there between him and Chris Olave.
Yeah, Jim. And right now you have three guys out of the same person. You like Chris Olave.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks are the same dude.
I agree.
Okay, they're the exact same guy.
Although Brandon Cooks has become, now that he's a little bit older, I think he's probably a little bit more of a possession receiver than he was. However, you're right though. They all the same mold, so it is a little bit different.
Same almost height. They all would be better slot receivers. Cedric Wilson's coming back. He's up in age. You got Dante Pettis. Yep. None of those
Dante Pettis, man. Dante Pettis. That's exciting.
Wow. There's not a lot of. I'm trying to find another word. I use the word sizzle already, but I don't get excited looking at that receiving room. And you know what? And Jim, that was one of the biggest question marks I had last year during training camp when we were in California. Was the depth at wide receiver? I was like, this doesn't excite me. Maybe you had Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. And that was and who else did they got? I mean, we were going crazy about undrafted guys out of Yale last year. That's how
exactly. That's Tipton,
Mason Tipton. So, and he's not even, I don't think, only on the team anymore. So,
that's That's a perfect segue to finish this segment here. Okay, to go back to where we started with Chris Olave. Everything you just said is all reasons, examples, whatever you want to put it on paper of why they would never, in my opinion, trade Chris Olave, because even if they go get a Ted McMillan, even if they go get a receiver in the draft that could start right away, you still don't have enough receiver talent there for a guy that's coming in, Kellen Moore, who's supposed to be basically the next Sean Payton, right? I mean, you're not going to trade away a Chris Olave because you just can't.
And he's on a rookie contract right now, Jim.
Correct.
Yeah, if you're trying to work the salary cap, and they're under right now in the salary cap, I think they have 24 million, 25 million.
24 point something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing well now with the salary cap. I think they're expecting in 2026 to take some massive cap hits when they figure out what they're going to do with Derek Carr. You want to keep guys on their rookie contracts. You want to go younger to keep on rookie deals. Olave's on a rookie deal. I know Rashid Shaheed's only signed through next season, so you don't have a lot of depth in guys that are on these big contracts. Brandon Cooks is on a 2-year deal. I'm sure there's some outs where they can get out of the contract after 1 year. So you don't have any of these guys locked into long-term deals, a wide receiver. So keep Olave right now. You got Juwan Johnson, a tight end. He's in a 3-year deal, but other than that, you got Foster Moreau and some other guys that you can move on from if you do get a Tyler Warren.
I like to quote Judge Judy every now and then. Judge Judy on Fox 8, by the way.
Still rolling on Fox 8 every afternoon.
I like to quote Judge Judy. If it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. So it doesn't make sense to trade Chris Olave. So, all right. There are a couple other things I want to talk about before we let you go this morning, and both basketball. And you know what? I'm going to save the LSU women for last. I'm going to move into the NCAA tournament. And I don't know, you're an early riser, so I don't know how much you saw last night of college basketball tournament. But that Texas Tech game against Arkansas was insane the way that it ended. Most people are happy about it because it kept that, they all had Texas Tech moving on to the Elite Eight in the bracket. Me, I was pissed off because I did not have Texas Tech in my Elite Eight. So I was rooting for Arkansas to win, just because it favors me. I don't care about anybody else. I'm selfish. But what a game last night. Did you see the ending of that, by the way?
So, no, you're right. I am an early riser. I run on the Avenue about 5:36 in the morning. I watched the entire Alabama game and the entire the other SEC game earlier, which Florida. Florida smoked the daylights. Yeah. I fell asleep at halftime of both of the second games. So I'm not going to pretend like I know in depth. I should have gone back and watched the highlights on Texas Tech, Arkansas.
Insane.
Because one of my sons told me that the ending was pretty crazy.
Arkansas had a 16-point lead with, I think, 8 or 9 minutes left.
Oh, my goodness.
It was like an LSU epic collapse.
Oh, gosh. I definitely have some eyeballs. I have my bracket tonight. I think I'm the only person in my bracket. I have Ole Miss actually going to the Elite Eight. To the Elite Eight, yeah.
I have actually a parlay to go with it. A parlay. I have Ole Miss in the Elite Eight, Tennessee in Sweet 16, which already happened, obviously, and Duke going to the Final Four. And let's just say it's pretty good odds. So it's all kind of hinging on Ole Miss tonight.
Okay, yeah, I love a lot of these SEC teams. The bracket, I do a bracket every year. There's about 20 of us. It's all my friends that along the way, and then some people I work with. Jeff Duncan's in first place, and he's got Duke. I'm right behind him in second. I have Florida. The key is, I know I'm the only person in my bracket that has this. I looked through them. I have Alabama beating Duke in the Elite Eight.
Okay.
And I will say this, Alabama just broke a record for most threes in NCAA tournament game, and I was praying that they save some of those threes for next round. Duke is a 6.5-point favorite. And so I'm going to I'm definitely going to take Duke.
Duke has not been covering. I think they only covered one of the three games.
No.
So far.
I'm definitely going to hedge my bets. I'm taking Duke money line, which is not, I have to put a lot of money up, but I'm hedging my bet if Duke loses and I bet Duke on the money line, I'm looking really good in my bracket to win it because a ton of people in our bracket have Duke winning it all. If Duke lost to Alabama, which can definitely happen, Alabama is so athletic. Florida,
they really are.
These SEC teams are so fun to watch in these games between Florida last night dominating Maryland in that ugly situation with their head coach probably going out the door right after. I mean, that was a nutso game last night. Angel Reese looked like, she was miserable, and I can understand why. Her brother's team looked terrible last night, but the head coach Willard's probably going to bounce and go to Villanova. So it was just a bad circumstances last night in that game.
They were lucky to get out of the round of 32.
Yeah. The Colorado State game. Yeah, that was awesome. But I hate that college basketball has gotten in the way where we only focus on it for 1 month. But that's just the way it is with the NFL. NFL is such a big deal now, and free agency takes over everything. And then you and I are in the same boat. We're kind of all in on high school sports also and basketball. And I covered soccer. I was in Hammond every day. So all of a sudden, we're on the back end, and we're like, oh, wait, it's March Madness time.
Exactly.
I will say another thing is, Jim, is that LSU stinks like the men. And that kind of takes a little of my excitement away. Like back in the day, man, I was all in on those Dale Brown teams. I would rush home from school at 3:15 to see Perry Clark and Tulane in there, and Tim Floyd and UNO, and Mike Vining at ULM was in there. So that was awesome for me. I think a little of the excitement has been taken away that we only had one team from the state of Louisiana in there, and General Wade, and now he's off to McNeese. Maybe Stacey Hollowell with Master P now helping recruit. Maybe UNO. Hey, the Southland's up for grabs now, and maybe Master P and UNO can flip that entire roster.
When I was the sports editor of the UNO Driftwood, the UNO Privateers, or just think about how long ago this was. It was 1993. UNO was an 8 seed and went to Indianapolis. An 8 seed. They were an 8 seed. They went to Indianapolis. They got smoked by Xavier. Xavier then got smoked by Indiana and Bobby Knight. But man, that was the beginning of my career basically. And they sent me in Indianapolis, and it was a hell of a trip. But just to go to show to where, and hopefully we don't have to say LSU again. But that's a possibility.
Well, I will say this, Jim. And no one from UNO wanted to hear me. I actually brought this up to him. The reason I went to so many UNO games in the 80s and early 90s was they used to give 1,000 tickets out to all the playgrounds. Yeah. And so, dude, there was children everywhere at the game. And you can make the money back on parking and drinks and food. What 10 or 11 or 12-year-old kid is not going to want a soft drink or a popcorn or candy? I told the outgoing athletic director this. I'm like, you need to bring back the giving away 1,000 tickets to the game, because I would get to see Tony Harris.
They need to get kids excited about it for sure. Tony Harris, man.
I saw Tony Harris, Liddell Eccles. I saw those old Benny D's.
Irvin Johnson.
Yes. That was, dude, I probably went to Lakefront Arena when I was 10, 11, 12 years old 10 times. I was out there all the time. And that's how you get the kids back in. You should just give away. You flood the market with put them, now that we're in an age of technology, just give them away online. Go to our website, print up 2 tickets, and all of a sudden, if you have standing room only, you deal with that problem.
They're going to buy concessions, right? I mean, you just give the tickets away. Yeah, make them make them pay $10 or $15 for parking and spend enough in concessions. It beats what you got going on right now, which is nothing.
Yeah,
so you might as well get people there.
Yeah. Maybe you and I should have a meeting with Stacey Hollowell and Master P, and we're going to get back. Idea. We're going to get people back on board with the Privateers.
Sounds like a show. We could do a YouTube show on. All right, we got about 4.5 minutes left. got to finish off with the LSU women. Garland, I don't know that I've ever seen this, especially in women's basketball. This Tigers offense is on fire. I mean, I had a fantasy baseball draft on Monday evening, so I had to listen to the first half in the car on the way, and I'm like, what a crazy game. LSU's up, 50-49 or 51-49 or whatever it was, and then they just go off like a 31-6 third quarter, end up scoring over 100 points. This team's kind of like the Alabama of the men.
Yeah, no, Anissa Morrow, Mikaela Williams, and then Flage. That second half, I mean, that girl was unstoppable in the first half of Florida State.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I don't know if you saw on X yesterday, she's in the transfer portal already.
Yeah.
Like, she was the highest scoring player in college basketball here, 25 points a game, and she's represented by Clutch Sports, which is like Rich Paul's crew. So that's something to pay attention to going forward. But I love this team tonight. I actually took them on the money line already. The minus, I hate. So Jim,
What
I know
is it, like minus 160, minus 170?
Yeah,
What is it?
when you're giving me like 1.5, 2, I just take the money line. Like there's nothing.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than a team that you kind of watch a lot and they win the game, but they only win by a point. And you lose your bet. Like if it's like 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, I'll just take the money line. I don't need a girl when the score is like NC State's down 6 at the end of the game. I don't need a girl to heave a shot from half court in the final game is like 3 points and I lost my bet. Like, dude, I want to like punch the television screen when that happens. So I took the LSU Lady Tigers on the money line. I think that they have a really good shot right now to make the Final Four. Great move by Kim Mulkey to hold Flage out for the SEC tournament, the back end of the season. Yep. Who cares about that? Get her ready for the postseason. I think this team is on one right now. I just can't believe they sent them all over to Spokane.
Yeah, and they're on a collision course with UCLA. If they can win this game, UCLA is likely going to be the winner. And look, I'm not saying UCLA is a great team. Obviously, I think they beat South Carolina earlier in the season. But if you're going to pick one of the top 4 seeds that you want to be against, well, maybe be USC now because they lost what's her name, the big girl, the girl.
Oh, Juju.
Yeah, Juju. They lost Juju Monday night. So now you'd probably rather be in with USC. You don't want to really play UConn, who's at the bottom down there, the 2 seed. They're on fire right now. But look, I think LSU's in a pretty good place. And I'm not saying this is you just say it's acceptable. You just go to the Final Four and you lose. But if this team were to go to the Final Four, you have to consider it a successful season. Yeah,
and I thought the key was we talked about this on Overtime about 3 weeks ago, and Juan asked me, could this team make it to the Final Four? And I said, let me see the bracket. I want to know where South Carolina is. If they can avoid South Carolina until they get to the Final Four that's in Tampa this year, I said, then they can make the Final Four. But when that bracket came out and USC
on the other side, baby.
Yeah, South Carolina, the other USC was away from them. I said they have a great shot to get to the Final Four. Yeah, UCLA, they got some really good players on their team, but if Kim Mulkey's got way more experience, they have a roster that's been in this situation before, Flage and Samaya Smith and those ladies. So I like their chances.
Lastly, real quick, also while you were sleeping last night, I don't know if you saw this or not, but LSU, a big comeback in baseball.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. I did see that.
Man, they're going to be a fun team to watch this year as well.
Yeah, no, I did pay attention to that. I was like half asleep, and I love like just being on X because like LSU's baseball is their handle.
Be careful how you say that. You mean formerly Twitter?
Oh, geez, I got to.
You don't want to love being on X. Well, I mean, if you know what that would mean when we were kids. If you were saying you were on X.
So formerly Twitter, now X. LSU baseball post all the highlights like about 5 minutes after they happened.
Yeah, they did.
So I just went back on their timeline and I got to watch all the highlights. I got to see Milam's bomb. I got to see Dickinson's bomb. I was a little worried about how Kate Aronson got rocked last night, the St. Paul's alum.
Yeah.
But
it's the first bad game of the year.
Yeah, I think LSU has a good shot to go to Omaha. I mean, I'm not breaking news here on your show. Obviously, it was a setback for them to lose 2 out of 3 in Austin, but it's still early in the season. And I still want to see Gavin Guidry out there. We don't have a timeline on his return. When Gavin Guidry gets in there, because the biggest problem I think with this team right now, Jim, is their bullpen. They don't have. They only have a few guys. And I think Gavin Guidry will help get some more people out there. So, yeah, no, I was excited about that. I did see that. That Omaha is like always in my back of my mind there, like, scheduling wise, in June and all that with the Fox 8 sports team.
Well, we go 6 months with nothing but Saints, and now we're like in that season where everything's happening at once. You got Saints draft coming up. You got LSU women trying to make their way to the Final Four. You got the LSU baseball team doing their thing, and you got all of our other local. We got some other Tulane baseballs playing pretty well at all. So it's crazy time. You got the Zurich Classic coming up. Garland Gillen, I appreciate you for coming on the show this morning. It's been a little while since we talked. Hope we get to talk again soon.
All right, thank you, Jim.
We even talked about after we went off the air. I mean, after we ended the recording, it's like we didn't even mention Pelicans. That's how bad it is right now. We didn't even mention the Pelicans, all the things that are going on. Love having Garland on. He is certainly one of our, what do we have, like 5 or 6 people in the rotation? Gabe and UBN are regulars, and then we got our 5 or 6 guys that are in the rotation. Good to have Girl on, because it had been a little while. It's been over a couple months. It was before the Super Bowl, I think, since the last time Garland was on. So glad to have him on in the new season. As we wrap up week 2 of season 5 here on this Friday morning, Dattitude podcast brought to you by Evangeline Securities. I'm going to tell you more about Evangeline Securities in just a minute. Breaking news this morning: the Memphis Grizzlies have announced they have, quote unquote, parted ways with head coach Taylor Jenkins. In a press release, they say, Grizzlies president and GM of basketball operations, Zach Kleiman, says, I genuinely appreciate of Taylor's contributions to this team and the city over the past 6 seasons. This was a difficult decision. Given this consistent and tangible development of our players and overall success under Taylor's leadership, I wish Taylor the very best going forward. You could just what did you do? Copy and paste from the last team that fired somebody? I mean, can't they say something different? Give us a bunch of bull crap. I mean, what's the real reason why they fired this dude anyway? The Grizzlies right now are 44-29 in the West. They are going to be in the playoffs. They are, they are 8 games ahead of the play-in. Oh, no, I take it back. They're only 3 games ahead of the play-in. Right? You got to be in the top 6 to not be in the play-in, right? 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. Whatever. I mean, they're the same record as the Lakers. What the hell is going on? Why'd you fire your coach mid-season? Not even mid-season, towards the end of the season. Why would you fire your coach with a month left in the regular season? Doesn't make any sense. So many things don't make sense. We go back to the Saints. We're going to bring on Gabe in just a minute. Something else I want to talk about trending this morning. It looks like Diana Rossini's talking about how there is a quote-unquote, she gets a sense from around the league that momentum around banning the tush push is growing. Diana Rossini says, quote, I feel like it's getting more momentum in terms of those opposed to it than I've ever heard before. Why? Because it works and you don't know how to do it? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, Gabe says there's 9 days left in the regular season. That's it? I thought it was like middle of April. Damn, I better take my daughter to a game. She's going to be really mad at me. I promised her that we would go to a game before the season's over. It shows how much I've been paying attention. That's just insane. I mean, I hate, why would we ban the tush push? I mean, yeah, 31 teams don't know how to do it as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. So we're just going to ban it because they run it to a 90% clip. That's your problem. Stop it. Learn how to stop it. There's nothing illegal about it. There's no reason to ban it. There's literally no reason to ban it except you can't stop it. It's your problem. You can't stop it. Doesn't make any sense. Some other comments on Saints. Again, we're about to bring on Gabe in just a minute, and we're going to talk NCAA tournament and have man versus machine, our man versus machine segment, where the machine meaning AI, makes its bet of the day, which, spoiler alert, is on the NCAA tournament, like it was Wednesday. Gabe will tell you whether he's thumbs up on the pick or thumbs down on the pick. And we'll tell you what their records are. Another spoiler alert. Gabe was right. Wednesday show. The machine was wrong. Good for him. We'll see how that goes. So we will also, as we normally do, finish the show with Saints. So we're going to get into NCAA in just a minute. But I want to go back to a couple comments. Most of them I showed already. There are a couple comments that while Garland was on, and if you don't, we're completely transparent on the show. I told you that Garland was recorded because he had some other things going on this morning. If you couldn't figure that out already. Saint for Life says, the O-line and D-line is deep. What are my thoughts of getting the best player available at 9 and double dipping in the second and third for an offensive guard, offensive tackle? Build the roster from there. I mean, I've made my thoughts pretty clear. I haven't changed my mind. I know y'all want me to change my mind. Maybe y'all will continue to try to get me to change my mind. There's only one right answer, in my opinion, unless they trade down. If they trade down, fine. Or if Ashton Genty is there, then you got a decision to make. Other than that, I don't think Ashton Genty will still be there. So I don't think there'll be a decision to make. But if he is, then we'll talk about it on the live draft broadcast, which will be here on this Dattitude channel during the first round of the NFL draft, which is Thursday, April 20, whatever. The Thursday after Easter, I believe. It will be live here on the Dattitude channel. You will want to watch it if the Saints make some boneheaded pick. The only options, there are three legitimate, in my opinion, options. Anything else, they do anything else, it's silly. Number one, draft an offensive line. More specifically, a tackle. Number two, trade down. Great, trade down, get more picks. Number three, Ashton Genty. Now, there are other moves that I would make that would be like, okay. Like if they drafted Teteroa McMillan there after the moves they made, I'd be like, okay. Probably wouldn't be mad. I mean, I could understand it. I get it. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it. If they drafted a cornerback, I'd probably do the same. Okay, whatever. Maybe even if they drafted a defensive lineman. But there are so many opportunities for them to completely get this wrong and just do something stupid. Or else picks up, they don't go O-line first. The Bears will last draft, they will regret going skill. I think I understand what that means. Apathy, the only reason you trade Olave is if you're not paying him a next contract. Even if you're not paying him a next contract, you don't trade him. Not now. Maybe later you do, but not now. William Izada says, Cam Ward. That would be a hell no, because you'd have to trade to the number one slot, which means you'd have to trade at least bare minimum 2 number ones and a player most likely, or 2 number ones and a number 2. That would be the most boneheaded trade this team has made since Mike Ditka traded the entire Saints draft in 98 for a Ricky Williams. That's not or 99, whatever year it was, whatever. That's not a no. That's a hell no. Lance Dobar, don't ban the tush push now that it's coming to New Orleans. Well, I mean, just don't ban it, period. It just doesn't make any sense. Because it works. 31 teams can't stop it. Too bad. Go draft a lineman that could stop it or whatever. Figure out how to stop it. Spend the offseason trying to stop it. If you can't, that's your problem. All right. Moving on to the next part of the show. But first, we told you earlier, the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints is Nick Braden. All right. While we exaggerated slightly on that point, one thing we're absolutely serious about is how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, the aforementioned native New Orleanian Nick Braden and his partner Ryan Hemel and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. They will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what is really important. It ain't your brackets. It ain't Chris Olave. It ain't who the Saints are going to pick in the first round of the NFL draft. What is really important? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. UBN says the tush push only works for Philly all the time. Most teams suck at it. That's why they want to ban it. I mean, what do they want to try to do? Take their ball and go home? Piss off. All right. Again, we're going to wrap up the show today with Saints talk and take more comments, your final comments and questions. And you're more than welcome to talk about whatever we're going to talk about over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes. But it's time to talk about, I'm guessing you want to talk about the NCAA tournament, Gabe Henderson. But before we do that, Lance thought you were the machine.
That did get a chuckle.
Yeah, well. What you got? What is going on this Friday morning as we do Fridays with Gabe here on the Dattitude podcast?
I agree with your tush push take.
There you go. We agree. See, we don't disagree on everything. I mean,
I think it's stupid to ban it unless the only reason I would say ban it is if there was a serious injury concern.
But that's the excuse they're going to use. But there hasn't been a serious injury.
It's not. The NFL looked into it. There have been 0 injuries as a result of the tush push.
But they'll still say if they ban it, their reasoning will be there could be injuries. Yes, there could be an injury from a guy slipping down the steps, going and get his 8th beer of the game. But whatever. We're not banning that, are we?
No, yeah, so it's stupid. I would like to see the New Orleans Saints try and run the tush push, though. That would be comical.
Yeah.
It works for the Eagles because they have
line.
the best offensive line in football and a mobile quarterback who can squat 800 pounds or whatever.
You Spencer Rattler. UBN wants to know if you got a black eye. Did you go to Lafayette?
No, I got 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, I thought it was your ooh la la talk. You went to Lafayette and you got your ass kicked.
I don't willingly go to Lafayette.
It's not that far from you.
And I wouldn't recommend anyone would.
All right. Well, what you got from this morning? Great NCAA tournament. And I was thinking about you last night with your Texas Tech Final Four pick. You had to be sweating there the final few minutes of that game.
Truth be told, I didn't have it on for a while.
Okay.
I had just box score watched that game. I was watching Duke, Arizona. And I saw Texas. I kept flipping to it, and every time I would, Texas Tech would struggle. And I was like, I'm going to get pissed off watching this. I don't want to get pissed off. So I'm going to just
I got pissed off for you.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to keep working. And because I worked late, I was like, I'm going to keep working, watching Duke because I've got all my chips in the Duke bag. And so I'll watch them play well. And then with I don't know.
None of that crap would have mattered if Duke lost. Yeah, if Duke lost, it would nothing else would have mattered. So.
No, it wouldn't have. Minutes to go, though, I was like, you know what? Texas Tech's they're doing something here. So I turned it on, and that was awesome. Best game of the tournament so far.
I agree. It was
someone who watched 4 of 40 minutes. Well,
I still think Arizona, Oregon was Arizona, Oregon was very good. Probably a little bit better.
It was very good as well.
Both of those games were really good last night. It was tough when your team has its domestic opener at the same time. Your Astros won yesterday, by the way.
Yes, they did.
Trying to watch the Cubs at the same time on my phone is a good night for them. All right, what you got for me today? Fridays with Gabe.
Well, just one quick note about the Astros game. Did you see all the reporters tweeting yesterday at the end of the game?
No.
Did you see how?
You broke up there, would you ask?
No, I said, did you see how they won?
Well, they were up 3-0, and they had to hold on. I know that.
They had to hold on. Juan Soto came up to the plate, 3-1, runners on the corners, 2 outs.
Mm-hmm.
And every reporter was rushing to Twitter, and they were, this is why the Mets pay Soto the big bucks.
Yeah,
and
exactly. By the way, I didn't even realize this, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this before. Thank you, Apathy. We should sing happy birthday to Derek Carr later. It is his birthday. He is 34 years old today. That'll really get them numbers going down. You think people turn this show off earlier? We start singing happy birthday to Derek Carr, they'll be gone really quick.
2 of the cringiest scenes in television history come from people singing happy birthday in one form or another, so I think I'll pass on that.
All right, well, maybe I'll wait till you're done. All right, we're going to roll into man versus machine in just a minute, but tonight, Michigan State is a 3.5-point favorite over Ole Miss. Tennessee is a 4.5-point favorite over Kentucky in the early games. Obviously, the ones that have the 2 SEC teams, well, the 3 SEC teams, the 2 games involving SEC teams. I know people can't wait to see Tennessee, Kentucky, but I'm intrigued by Ole Miss because I, like Garland Gillen, have Ole Miss in my Elite 8, and this is the one where it would really help me bracket-wise if and I hate rooting for Ole Miss, but it would really help me bracket-wise if Ole Miss beats Michigan State. For some people, I mean, I don't know. I take it back. That's my bracket too. I got Ole Miss winning. Anyway, for some people, they're all rooting for Michigan State. I think you got Michigan State in the Final Four too, right?
Yep.
You have in the final game?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't believe so.
I found it interesting that it's only a 3.5-point spread, and Michigan State's just minus 180 on the money line. So that has potential to be a really
that doesn't surprise me
game.
At all. It doesn't surprise me at all because I think both odds makers and the public alike are worried about Michigan State after what happened to St. John's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Those 2 teams are built very similarly. I don't think Michigan State is as bad from the field. I don't think they can go as cold as St. John's went. I don't think Ole Miss will win. I think it'll be a Michigan State win as I projected in my bracket. But I certainly think Michigan State is on upset watch tonight. I think Tennessee's on upset watch, and I think Auburn's on upset watch too.
Anybody could be, really.
Yeah, I wrote an article earlier in the week on the Cinderellas in this round, and it's really hard to pick out Cinderellas when there's only one double-digit seed. But the 3 teams that I really thought could pull off the upsets this week play tonight. So,
well, I think a lot of people are just hating on Auburn, and I get why. It goes back to what you were talking about for the tournament and how Bruce Pearl's been bad in March. But if I could change something in my bracket right now, I would change Michigan State in the Final Four because, again, Ole Miss is in my Final 8 in my second bracket, which is doing better, but they're both doing well. I would go back and change. In bracket 1, I would put Auburn in the Final Four and not Michigan State. And I think the reason being is because I think that the brackets that are doing well, if that makes any sense, I think a lot of them have Michigan State in the Final Four. I think I would get value there.
By the way, I have them beating Texas Tech.
Okay, I just think I would get more value there.
I think the one reason that I don't like Ole Miss here, and I was all over Chris Beard in the first round. Everyone was picking UNC. They were so popular, and I was like, don't fade Chris Beard. He's an excellent coach.
Yeah, he is.
The reason I don't really like him here is because people are putting too much stock into the Iowa State win. Iowa State is banged up. They've been banged up. They're without their second leading scorer. Someone, I don't remember who, I wish I remember who said this, but I saw someone say it the other day, Iowa State looks like they mentally checked out weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
They were a Final Four caliber team at full strength, and they just limped to the finish line this season, and it's a shame.
You think this is it for Izzo if they make a run?
No.
No, you think he's going to coach till he dies?
Did you see his quote yesterday? He was asked about wins in March, and just in the tournament in general, and he said, after you win a title, wins just don't get you very excited. He goes, I don't get turned on.
I actually did say that. I did say that.
I love Tom Izzo. He's awesome.
He's fun for sure. All right, I want to move on to man versus machine, and because It has to do with the NCAA men's tournament. You beat the machine on Wednesday. The pick was Duke minus 9.5 over Arizona. I gotta say, I think you got lucky with Texas Tech, and I think you got lucky with this one too in the grand scheme of things. Not that it really matters in the grand scheme of things. Cooper Flagg scored 30. Duke led by double digits for most of the second half. They ended up winning 100-93. It is what it is. We don't care whether it's luck or whether it's real. The fact is you're 1-1 and the machine is 0-2.
I don't really think it was luck. Not with
Okay.
Arizona. I mean, I guess if you want
I think Duke was double digits better than Arizona, and just kind of like, although this goes into part. This is part of betting though. When you're talking about spreads, if you think it's going to be right around that 10, and Duke just kind of the last couple minutes of the game, it just kind of cruised, I guess.
Well, they didn't look great, but once they secured the game, they started cruising.
They went on one. They had one stretch where I think they had hit 18 of 21 field goal attempts, which is insane.
Been lights out from the field.
I mean, they really have. All right, tonight it doesn't matter. You're 1-1, I put man 1-1 because there will be times when it's not you making this pick, and so I changed it to man. But you are the man, at least for now,
and the machine,
and the machine according to Lance, the machine is 0-2. Tonight's machine pick is the Kentucky Wildcats minus 4.5 over the Tennessee Volunteers. And as I've been doing with our new segment here, I read the machine's reasoning. And what we do is we go into AI and then we ask it what the best bet of the day, and it tells us. And then I tell you why it thinks what it thinks. One game that stands out is the matchup between the number 3 Kentucky Wildcats and the number 2 Tennessee Volunteers. Despite Tennessee being favored by 4.5 points, Kentucky has already defeated Tennessee twice this season. Historically, achieving a third win against the same opponent in a single season is challenging. However, Kentucky's recent defensive improvements and healthier roster could give them an edge. Hence, Kentucky plus 4.5 over the Tennessee Wildcats. What say you, man?
This is perfect. Leading into this by saying I'm the man and the machine, because tonight the machine and I are one. I have been on this pick all week, and I don't love it. I really don't. I just don't think the chalk is going to continue the whole time. I think we're going to see one team upset, and I had to pick one for an article earlier in the week. I had to pick one team that I believe would pull off an upset, and I believe it's Kentucky. As the machine noted, they've already played twice this season. Kentucky's got Tennessee's number. They covered the spread both times, winning outright both times, and they just look. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Tennessee is one of the best defensive teams in the country. They cannot slow down Kentucky. Kentucky's shooting 50% from the field this season against Tennessee. Not in a half, not in a game. In 2 whole games, 80 minutes of basketball, they are shooting 50% from the field. I think they look a lot better with Lamont Butler back healthy. Even if the stat sheet doesn't exactly show it, his contributions all across the floor really help Kentucky. So as much as I hate to side with the machine, again, I'm going to. I like Kentucky plus 4.5.
2 out of the first 3 in this segment. We started on Monday. We're going to do it every show from here on out, unless there's some weird reason, and I foresee us not being a reason. It might not be Gabe being man, but today he is the man. He is the machine. He's one with the machine. He's 1-1. He's trying to make it 2-1. That means he hopes the machine is 1-2 when we come back on Monday. His pick, Kentucky plus 4.5 over Tennessee. And I'll just throw out there my thoughts on this. And I'm in line with Kyle Sherman. Kyle Sherman says his bracket depends on Tennessee and Michigan State getting to the Final Four. Risky, but what the heck? So does mine. I also have Tennessee and Michigan State in the Final Four. So technically, Tennessee could win by 4, and the machine's right, Gabe's right, and we're all happy. But I think Tennessee's going to win this easy because it is tough to beat a team 3 times in a row.
It's really not.
You big dummy. It really is, by the way. It really is.
It's not.
Statistically.
It happens. Someone did a study on this. It happens so often.
It
But
also
doesn't-
happens
it's
so often where it
insignificant.
doesn't
happens
happen.
so often.
Yeah, ask the Saints about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Anyway,
Well, okay,
we got good
football's
news.
different than basketball.
Hold on. I'm going to give you some news that you'll want to share. Dattitude bracket challenge. Remember, we haven't talked about it all week. The Dattitude bracket challenge we put out there. Anyone, it was a free tournament, is nothing but more than bragging rights. You may get an autographed picture of UBN if you win something. I mean, that'd be about the best thing you can win. Who's leading right now, Gabe Henderson? Do you know the answer to that?
This guy.
Gabe Henderson is the leader.
I'm in the 98.6th percentile.
98.6%. And second is ESPN fan 57988575531. Where is Jim Derry? I told you that Texas Tech game. I wasn't eighth till that Texas Tech game kind of hosed me a little bit. I am in ninth out of 19, and I am actually in the 78.7 percentile, which is okay. Still got a shot. And my other bracket, which is not in this thing, is in the 82% bracket, but whatever. Anyway,
I fill out two brackets a year. I fill out one, and then I fill out one with my girlfriend because her family does a big bracket challenge.
Oh, they're going to tell me she wants to do it by whoever wears the best uniforms.
No, she doesn't. She actually picks. And our bracket is not doing well, but mine is, so I'm happy about that. The one thing I will say, one final parting comment. One of Charles's first, I believe Charles had the first comment of the show today.
He did,
and he said, "Caleb Love will be a good NBA player." He will not. He will not.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, he will not be a good NBA player. He's a fourth-year senior. You just don't. You rarely see guys like that translate to the NBA. And not only that, he's not a good enough shooter to be good in the NBA, I don't think. He's shooting less than 40% from the field.
I'm just going to throw this out there to the audience, okay, to tack on to Gabe's comment. Gabe hates seniors that stick around longer than they're supposed to.
No. I have no problem with Caleb Love. It's just it doesn't happen in basketball. You don't have guys stick around for 4 years and then go to the NBA and magically be very good. He should. I just don't think he's good enough to be. He could be an impactful role player, but I don't think he's going to be a really good player in the NBA. He's not an efficient enough scorer. There have been many times this season, and just going back to watch Arizona's streakiness over the season, he shoots them out of games. He takes too many shots. He misses too many of them. And that's why I just don't think he'll be very good.
Before we let you go, Saint for Life says Lafayette's a wild town and that you had too much jungle juice near Ooh La La.
I've been on Ooh La La's campus once. Say that.
That's well, I've been there quite a few times for multiple reasons, including the fact that my son spent his first semester there before realizing that it wasn't the place for him, and then he didn't stay there. It's
not the place for anyone.
Jeez. Can't wait to hear what you have to say on Monday.
I have no beef with the school. It's just fun to make those little.
You're just trying to piss on them. That's all. Just trying to piss on them. All right, we'll see you Monday. Have a good weekend.
Sounds good. You too.
Oh man, the man and the machine, Gabe Henderson. I mean, look, some people just don't. I mean, I like to piss on Ooh La La people too because it really pisses them off. Like, I just think it's comical. And then they go, and they never come back with anything good. Never. They've never come back once, and I just go, is that the best you got? So it really is kind of funny just to piss them off. Lance says, Gabe, you're a dream crusher. Nick says he went to school there and he thinks he's been on campus twice. That's why he's on this show every now and then. Charles says he'll keep an eye on Mr. Love for you and thinks you might be wrong. We all could be wrong. Who knows? Is the machine wrong today? Gabe hopes not. I hope it is. No offense. I'm not rooting against Gabe. I'm just rooting against the machine and whatever. All right. I'm going to do what I told you we're going to do. I'm going to wrap up the show with Saints in our final 5 minutes or so today, talking about, and that's not necessarily Chris Olave, and talking about the crazy trade rumors and whatever. Gabe says he's more likely to be the next Bronny James than he is Jamal Murray. That I definitely agree with. Kyle misses Red Fox. Who doesn't? Big dummy. Sean says, draft the top available player first round and draft a guard in the second round. I don't want to draft a guard. Drafting a guard to me is kind of like drafting an interior defensive lineman. I'm never a fan. You can always find that in free agency more reasonably priced. And besides that, if you draft a guard, that means you're sticking with Trevor Penning at right tackle. And I don't want to stick with Trevor Penning at right tackle. He's not good enough to play right tackle. Not on a regular basis. Was he fine last year? They went 5-12. So sure, he was fine last year. Trevor Penning sucks at tackle. I would love to see if he could be revitalized even further. Again, he was fine he did better than I thought he would do. Doesn't mean he was any good. Move him to guard. Let's find out what he can do at guard. Again, this is my reasoning. If you've missed it before, if you've missed me say this before, the reason why I think Trevor Penning can be something at guard is because I thought his run blocking was much better than I expected it to be. Much better. But his pass blocking wasn't good at all. Move him to guard. Draft a tackle. More specifically, if you can, Will Campbell, if it's possible, if that's what happens. Move Fawanga back to his native right tackle, put Will Campbell at left tackle. If they do that, probably not. Will we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about on the live draft show? I'm sure we will. I mean, last year was kind of boring because they did what I said they were supposed to do. Who are you, Jim Darren, to say what they're supposed to do? The same as you. My opinion's the same as yours. I'm not saying it's any higher than yours, any more important than yours, any more valid than yours, but it is an opinion. And it's an opinion that I've been sticking by for months, since before the season was over. This team has got to get better on the offensive line. And to me, the most sure way to get better on the offensive line and the clearest path to get better on the offensive line is to go and draft a tackle in the first round. Just saying. If you can think of a better way to have that clear path for this offensive line to get where it needs to get. I'm not talking about, is it better than it was last year this time? In my opinion, yes. But that still ain't good. Last year at this time, I thought they were by far the worst offensive line in football. Where do I think they are now? Somewhere in the bottom 4. Where are they at the end of the season? I should say bottom 4. Where are they right now? Somewhere in the bottom 8. If you don't go fix the offensive line, you're putting yourself in the same position that you were at the end of last year. There's another comment I want to go back to from before that I meant to show, and I don't think I did. And if I did, I think I showed it. But I didn't ever talked about it. Apathy. Here it is. This was when Garland was on. I don't know if Apathy's still with us or not right now. I don't like a single move the Saints have made to the roster thus far. This is what Apathy says. Spending new money to be either a 500 football team, a win or 2 below, or one above doesn't move the needle at all. Horse hockey. First of all, there is zero question this team is better at this point in time right now than they were at the end of last year. Is it a lot better? Probably not. But think of all the reasons why they went 5-12. They were a 9-8-ish kind of football team before Derek Carr got hurt. The key to this season and almost every other NFL team season is keeping your quarterback healthy. Where would the Chiefs be if Patrick Mahomes didn't stay healthy? Well, they'd probably be a whole lot better than 5-12, unlike the Saints. But they wouldn't have been a Super Bowl team. They most likely wouldn't have been a playoff team. Think about where the Eagles would have been had Jalen Hurts not say that. You could think Jalen Hurts is, I mean, there are so many varying opinions on Jalen Hurts, but no matter what you think, without Jalen Hurts, the Eagles are not going to win the Super Bowl. Period. Amen. End of story. The Saints are a 9-8-ish team with Derek Carr as quarterback. If they get a little better than they were before, then logic only dictates that they could be a 10-win kinds of season. Have a 10-win kind of season. Is that going to win you a Super Bowl? No. But you people are so spoiled rotten that you don't, 10-7 is not acceptable to so many of you. Why is it not? It's not acceptable for one reason. You hate Derek Carr. I get it. And the funny thing is, I'm not even taking up the Derek Carr. I don't think Derek Carr is anyone who's watched this show more than 3 or 4 times, maybe you didn't even need to watch it 3 or 4 times. You know what I think. Is that the bridge to the future for this team? Derek Carr is not going to be the quarterback of this team in 2027. I seriously doubt. I mean, happy birthday, Derek Carr. He turned 34 today. Are we going to be talking 2 years from now when he's 36, going into his 36-year-old season that he's the quarterback? I hope not, okay? Because I do want the Saints to move on and draft their quarterback of the future. But at the same time, I want football to be fun before we get to that future. There's a way to do both. And I think that's what the Saints are trying to do here. And I think they can do both. You don't have, and guess what? You want to talk about opinions? Doesn't move the needle. Move what needle? Move what needle? You want to be 5-12 again? I would rather be 8-9, 9-8 any day and Christmas and be draft 16th than get the 4th or 5th or 6th pick, because they're not getting 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're not bad enough to get 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're just not. It's not going to happen. They're not getting 1, 2, or 3, or 4 in the 2026 draft. Get it out of your head. It ain't happening. They're not bad enough no matter what happens. Even if the Rat plays 15 games, they're not getting 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're not bad enough. So I would rather be 8-9 or 9-8 and have a chance going into that last week to make the playoffs and win the division, whatever that record may be, than go through another 4-13, 5-12 type season. That sucks. That doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the needle. It moves the needle for me. It moves the needle for lots of people. Most Saints, and you could say whatever you want. I would be willing to bet 80 to 90% of the people who say they want them to lose on purpose, go out there and tank, are full of shit. Because when you watch a game and when you're watching it live, you're not rooting for them to lose on purpose. Now, you might be rooting for them to lose on purpose if they're 3-12 late in the season. You might have been rooting for them to lose on purpose in the Tampa game last year and games before that, like you're rooting for the Pelicans to lose now. But you're not rooting for them to lose on September the 7th or 8th or whatever the hell opening day is going to be. If you say you are, you're lying. Okay, I don't believe you. I simply don't believe you. And if you are, then you're not a true fan, or you're living in la la Lulu land. Success breeds success, Kyle Sherman. No doubt about it. Going into the last couple comments of the day. Well, in you being you don't count, you hate the Saints. Of course, you want them to lose. All kidding aside, no real fan of any team roots for his or her team to lose on purpose. Unless, even then I don't agree with it, but at least I understand it. If you're talking about once you're eliminated and the season's over or whatever, and to do what, move up a couple spots, it doesn't do you any good to lose. That's what you don't get. Having a better draft pick only really matters in the first round, maybe the second. After that, it don't make a difference, okay? Just doesn't. Potentially the final comment of the day. We'll see. Lance Dobard, no Campbell at 9. Too rich a pick. I disagree. He's not a game changer to the position. I disagree. Top 10 should be game changers only. Players who are immediately the best at their position group. He's the best at his position group, in my opinion. Some people think it's Membu. Membu's probably more of a right tackle anyway. So at left tackle, there's no better player than Will Campbell in the draft. Anyway, I don't think anyone, well, not anyone. I think if you would have gone into before last season, Will Campbell was clearly the best tackle in the draft, and now people are saying he's not. Whatever. We'll see. I mean, again, opinions. Doesn't matter anyway. You don't have to be the best player at your position to be drafted in the top 10. That's an absurd statement. I mean, if Cam Ward gets drafted number 1, which good chance he will, maybe he won't, whatever. He's going to draft the first couple. If the Giants think they need Shedeur Sanders, should they not because they didn't get the best quarterback in the draft? No. What about last year? I mean, how many quarterbacks were taken in the top 10? I don't even remember. Like 5? 4 or 5? I don't even remember. I'd have to go back and look. But what about 2 years ago? Should Houston have not drafted C.J. Stroud? Because, well, we can look back now and say, well, clearly Bryce Young wasn't the best quarterback in that draft, at least not right now. It doesn't look that way. But at that time, there was no question that Bryce Young was the clear-cut number 1 in that draft. Should the Texans not have drafted C.J. Stroud because the Panthers drafted the number 1 player at the position? Oh, well, we can't use a top 10 pick. Lance Dobard doesn't think we should be using a top 10 pick on someone that's not the clear-cut number 1 player at the position. Following up, he says, our current line with McCoy, Kellen Moore doesn't play offensive line, but a bump in a skill position is good enough. It's not good enough. I get that you'd rather that than Campbell. I'm telling you right now, this line is only a tinge better than it was last year at this point in time. If you don't make this line significantly better going into next year, and Will Campbell's not going to do that. I think he will. And besides that, I also think it allows you to do some other things that can definitely make this line better. But if you don't make this line significantly better than it was last year, you're going to be in the same boat. And people will be bitching about it'll be Mickey Loomis's fault. If you don't draft a tackle in the first round, by the way, this is definitely going to happen. And the Saints offensive line stinks and Derek Carr gets hurt. Well, you'll hate on Derek Carr and you'll blame Mickey Loomis all at the same time. However, if they do draft a tackle first and the Saints go 10-7 and Derek Carr has a decent season, a 4,000-ish yard season, 3,800, 4,000 yards, somewhere in that ballpark, no one will give either one of them credit. Whatever. Sean says there isn't a tackle in this draft worth a top 10 pick. They might as well trade back if that's the position they will draft. I want them to trade back anyway. That being said, there are 2 tackles that are very likely going to go in the top 10. I disagree completely. And look, here it is. Here's what it comes down to. Drafting a lineman when you haven't had a top 10 pick in forever. I get it. You haven't had a top 10 pick in whatever it is. I don't even know how long it's been. It's been a while. And you finally got one, and drafting an offensive lineman in the top 10 isn't sexy. And we want sexy because it's more fun. Guess what? Doesn't make you a better football team. You can celebrate that they picked Tetairoa McMillan or Tyler Warren in the top 10. Woohoo! You can celebrate it for a few months because it was fun to watch on draft night. Then what happens in September? You get your ass kicked because you don't have an offensive line. Didn't pay attention. You're not paying attention. If you think the Saints need to do anything else Again, you may get your wish. I'm not saying 0.0 on that. Hell no. Do I think it's possible they draft Tetero McMillan? Absolutely, I do. Do I think Genty will fall, or if he doesn't fall, that they draft a running back that early? I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen. Do I think it's possible they pick a defensive back in the first round? Possible. Hope they don't. Hope they don't. And see, I know you're being a smart ass, Sean, but you're not paying attention, because I know even though you're making a smart ass statement, you're serious about this. Jim, you need to be Clark's campaign manager to improve his support. For lack of love, and NOLA is strong. And I know you're being a smart ass about this. I'm not even defending Derek Carr. He is clearly, first of all, he's going to be the quarterback of this team in 2025 and likely 2026. And if you can't accept reality, that's your problem, not mine. And I don't mean Sean. I mean you in general, all of you. He's a good, not great quarterback. It is what it is. And anything other than Derek Carr playing quarterback for this team next year means complete disaster. I know some of you are saying you want disaster, and maybe you're sickos and really do. Oh, hell, let's just get top 10. Let's be like the Giants. We can get top 10 draft pick every year. Be like the Jaguars. Just stink. Jay Tucker Rafferty. How many first-round picks do I need on my O-line? At some point, look at the coaching. We need skill players who can change the game. How many O-linemen? Enough to keep my quarterback healthy. That's how many. I need as many first-round offensive line picks that keep my quarterback healthy. And just because you get it wrong one year, it doesn't mean that you can't admit that you got it wrong. You got it right with McCoy. You got it right with Fawanga. You could argue whether you got it right with Ruiz or not. You don't have a left guard. So there are 4 or 5 up there. You got it wrong with Penning. It's okay to admit you got it wrong. That doesn't mean that you just go out and say, screw it. We don't need to pick an offensive lineman. The hell with it. What is wrong with you people? We want it to be fun, damn it. We want them to pick Tetero, McMillan, Ashton Genty, or Tyler Warren because it's fun. Players that can change. You know who changes the game? Your quarterback changes the game. But he can't change the game if he's on his ass. Fletcher says we're going to get a quarterback, says Johnny Culpepper. No, I can't wait to have Fletcher on the show next week. Right now, as of right now, I think it's going to happen. And my cord is stuck on my chair here. I think it's going to happen. I'm not 100% sure. Fletcher Mackel, I think, is going to be on this show Friday. Penning had a good year. He did not have a good year. He had a better year than it was expected, but he had a bad year. He was ranked not even in the top 64 in offensive tackles. I believe he was somewhere around 85th or 90th. That's outside of the top 64 in tackles, which means you're not a starting tackle. He did not have a good year. Anyone who thinks Trevor Penning had a good year, pigeons, meat pigeons, feed pigeons on Sundays. They need to be fed. Birdseed. You can let the bread stay out on the counter. You let it stay out for like 5 or 6 days. It's like hard, and then you just grab it and it crumbles it up. Pigeons love it. Pigeons love it. What do I think of Jackson Dart? I think he'll be just fine as a backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. Last comment of the day, because we do need to go. I'm already 15 minutes over what I wanted to leave. Happy birthday, Derek Carr. 34 years old today. That's a good way to finish the show. That'll piss him off, Gabe. Sometimes he'll make me want to piss you off. I mean, really. I lied. One more pick. Earl's picks. I'm glad you've joined the Dattitude family, by the way. You have common sense, sir. Bears last year, they passed over offensive line the first 2 rounds, went skill positions. Their O-line was awful, and they only won 5 games. Oh, they had the first pick of the draft. What are you talking about, Earl? Caleb Williams, fantastic. You pick somebody like that, and you're going to win. Wait a minute. They didn't win. Why didn't they win? Oh, they couldn't block for him, and Caleb Williams kind of sucks. Oh, Well, other than that, I know what. I got a new coach. I can be completely different this year. Are they? Reality, people. This is a show about reality. You can say whether it's my reality or whatever. It's reality. I think I'm right more often than I'm wrong. Just saying. Go back and listen to shows from 3 years ago when I was talking about what was coming. I warned of what was coming. But no, you know what happened 3 years ago? People's heads were in the clouds. The opposite of what it is now. They got pissed. People get pissed off at me and I watch the show because I was quote unquote Derry Downer. People don't like reality. You think this team, what are you talking about? There's no way that's not an 11-win team. Well, I don't think they're going to be an 11-win team. I think they're like an 8 or 9-win team. They weren't as good as you thought they were back then when you were sleeping with Abdul the tent maker and riding the magic carpet. And they're not as bad as you think they are right now. That's reality. Are they great? No. Are they going to be great no matter who they draft? No. Can they be decent? Absolutely. We'll see. We got plenty more of this to talk about next week. I know you're going to come back. Y'all love arguing with me. I mean, what do I do that other people don't let you argue with them? If you don't agree with their comments, they just shut you off. Hell, most of them don't even show comments anyway. And you know what Monday is? Monday is Mono-y Monday. You can hate on me all you want. Tell your friends about it. I mean, Earl was right. 0.0 is going to be nice all day long. Earl's picks, commenter of the day. By the way, next week we're going to start another new segment, I believe, on Fridays. Dumbass of the week. Can't wait for that one. It's going to be fun, I'm telling you. We're going to have fun with it. I mean, how do you follow up man versus machine with dumbass of the week? It don't get any better than that. But for now, that is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday. I want to thank today's guests, Garland Gillen, Gabe Henderson, and you, even though if you don't agree with me. We hope you can join us again, yes, next on Mono-y Monday. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. If you haven't already, please give us the little like. Even if you don't really like it, they say it helps the algorithm. I know you like the show in general. I know you like coming at me, bro. Come at me, bro. You got to subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't already. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast if you want to listen after the fact, including Apple, Spotify, and many more, and find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.nola.com. Charles says, great show again, as always. Earl says, glad he found this show. I'm glad you found it, too. Pissed so long you stuck in Illinois with 0.0 amount of Saints talk. Kyle Sherman says, great show. Earl, you can go back and watch some of the other ones. It may not as be fun now, but I had some doozies, some rants on Dennis Allen you probably find interesting. You can go back and find them. Speaking of finding them, we will find you later. Have a wonderful, glorious weekend. If you're in and around the New Orleans area, be safe tomorrow. Bad weather coming. Maybe I will see you at the Gretna Irish Italian Parade on Sunday. See you all on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.